Welcome. I'm really glad you're here and open to exploring these ideas. Let's take a journey together, not in some abstract or distant way, but in a way that feels real, grounded, and personal. What you're about to read isn't fantasy or poetic speculation. It's a gentle invitation to look a little deeper at the nature of your own awareness, your sense of reality, and what it all might actually mean. If you're experiencing a virtual world right now, then think about what that implies. In this space, the computer creating your world and the awareness you're using to explore it aren't physical in the way you normally think about things. They're intangible. That alone challenges the idea that consciousness must come from the brain. After all, if the brain is part of the simulation too, how can it be the true source of your awareness? This doesn't just open the door to a philosophical question. It reveals something truly profound. Your consciousness might not be temporary. It might not be something that starts with birth and ends with death. It might actually be eternal. You're not waiting for an afterlife in some far-off realm. You're already in it, right here, right now. There's nothing mystical or symbolic about that idea, just a straightforward observation that's been hinted at by ancient mystics and is only now being explored seriously by modern science. The boundaries between life and what comes after may not be as clear as we once thought. Think about this for a moment. What if what you call life is really just a continuation of awareness after a kind of death you never realized had happened? One moment you weren't here, and then suddenly you were. You didn't wake up in a hospital or a crib, but in a situation, in a place, perhaps even in a challenge. You didn't create the walls around you, they were already there. But those walls might not be made of stone or rules. They might be built from memory. That strange sense of familiarity you feel in places you've never been. The odd ache in your chest when something seems off, but you can't say why. That's all part of it. It's not random. It's echo. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're just waking up. And when you start to realize that everything around you, everything you see, love, fear, or wonder about, could be part of something unfolding after death, your questions begin to change. What happens when I die? Stops being the most important question. It shifts to something far more immediate and curious. Where am I now, and why? You've been here longer than you think, not just in this life, with this name or story, but in this loop, this echo, this repeating rhythm of awareness. You've felt it, haven't you? That weird connection to someone you just met. The sensation that a place you've never seen before feels like home. That feeling of being stuck in a pattern you can't quite describe, like living the same lesson in different forms. We often brush it off as coincidence or call it intuition. But what if it's more than that? What if it's memory? What if this isn't the first time you've woken up here, but the first time you've started asking the right questions? Ancient traditions have mapped this landscape long before modern science dared to chart it. Tibetan Buddhism speaks of the bardo, a kind of in-between realm the soul journeys through after death. But it's not just a ghost world. It reflects reality itself, and that might be exactly what you're seeing now. Hermetic teachings describe reality as a mirror of the mind, where death is not a wall but a gateway to a subtler level of existence. The Gnostics believed we didn't fall into this world as punishment, but came here to refine ourselves, to learn, to remember. Life, in that sense, becomes less of a sentence and more of a sacred school. As illusions fall away, all that remains is consciousness, clear, pure, eternal. And whether you realize it or not, you're in the middle of it right now. You're walking through the fire, not to be burned, but to awaken, to remember who and what you really are. So take a breath. You're not alone in this. You're not lost. You're on your way back to something you've always known. In no way is this a superstition. It is a structure that has persisted through the ages and among people of different cultures. And what's even more disturbing is not how bizarre everything sounds. Rather, it's how familiar everything is. The progression of life is taught to you to be linear: birth, struggle, and death. The question is, what if that is an illusion? Assuming that you did not start when you were born and that you would not cease when your heart stops beating, what would you do? And what if you have already passed on, and this very moment is the next step in your life? The majority of individuals spend their whole lives anticipating a moment of transcendence, whether it be a tunnel of light, a supernatural voice, or an indication that they have successfully gone beyond their current state. Nevertheless, what if that crossing had already taken place, in a low voice, without a hitch, without delay? What if your passing was so unremarkable that you failed to notice it? This is where you are currently. I am still looking for a purpose. Continue to struggle with uncertainty. I am still bearing wounds that did not originate in this life. To a certain extent, you are aware of this inside of you. This is the reason why time seems abnormal. Because of this, the same difficulties keep coming back in a variety of shapes. The reason why dreams may seep into waking life and why some phobias have no rational basis is because of this. This is not a new beginning for that reason. There is a continuation here. The situation is neither a game nor a jail. Because it is such a precise and sophisticated learning environment, even your uncertainties about it are included into the architecture of the environment. It is not a bug that occurs by chance. Your suffering is not recycled for the sake of amusement. The majority of people are completely oblivious to the fact that it is a mathematically precise reflection of you, reacting to your awareness in ways that are so subtle. However, once you start to recognize the patterns, it is impossible to stop seeing them. The issue that has to be asked is no longer whether or not this is a simulation. Rather, it is who constructed it and why they did so. The door has already been opened to popular debate by contemporary philosophers like Nick Bostrom and Neil deGrasse Tyson, who have admitted what ancient mystics have long known, that the likelihood of this being the fundamental reality is very low. A great deal of order, a great deal of synchronization, and an excessive number of overlaps between thought and event are present. Quantum physics even argues that the only way for matter to become real is via observation, and that awareness has an effect on the consequences. The way you focus your attention transforms probability into familiarity. Nevertheless, this brings up a more profound and more age-old question. If the world only reacts when we gaze at it, then who is watching while we are not there? There are no extraterrestrial beings sitting behind servers or remote puppet masters that are responsible for the creation of this simulation. It is possible that they are a more evolved form of ourselves, since they are something older and more intimate. A mind that was so enormous that it had to create fragments of itself in order to expand. In addition to being the student, you are also the architect in this situation. It was for your own expansion that you constructed this world. Every difficulty, every delight, and every loop that you feel like you are caught in was selected, not as a kind of punishment, but rather as a form of structure. You selected this existence not out of ego or desire, but rather out of a profound understanding of your soul. You were aware that this world would put you to the test in ways that only it could. The reason you came here was not to feel secure. This is how you were polished. The purpose of this simulation is to dispel illusions, to force you to face your projections, and to compel you to remember via the agony of forgetting. Because of this, reality serves as a reflection not just of what you want, but also of who you are. Anger, anxiety, and cycles that keep repeating themselves are not failures. Rather, they are feedback. Loops like this are included into the design. You are not punished by the simulation. Rather, It shows who you are. Not to put you down, but to provide you with the information you need to progress. Because you are dealing with a karmic algorithm rather than a linear tale, you will find that the same people, obstacles, and events keep coming up again and again inside your life. On top of that, you are not here to be saved. There is no one who will come to remove the veil for you. This is not how the process works. When someone attempts to reveal the truth to you before you are prepared to do so, the simulation makes a change. The truth is obscured by noise, buried under diversions, and the veil is made more opaque as a result. You are brought back to slumber. Being awakened is not a chance occurrence. Rather, it is a learned experience. That was made sure of by the architects. However, you are not the only one. Not only did they leave you hints in old manuscripts, but they also left you symbols in your dreams and professors who posed as humans. Things that you referred to as coincidences were never coincidental. Rather, they were invitations. Penetration of the veil does not mean hacking the code. Rather, it means aligning with it. During the dream, they become aware of their surroundings. This is the point at which the simulation begins to act differently, shaping itself to conform to your consciousness. This is not because you have managed to fool it. Rather, it is because you have finally comprehended it. It's not true that the architects of your life are either gods or jailers. Instead, they are simply parts of yourself waiting to be recognized and understood. You don't meet them in some far-off dimension or alternate universe. Rather, you encounter them in the quiet spaces between your thoughts, in the stillness behind your eyes, and at the moment when you finally stop running away from everything. That's when you stop judging the world and begin to truly understand it. In your mind, life often feels chaotic and unpredictable. But what if, instead of randomness, every event, every challenge, every sorrow, every delay was carefully chosen for a purpose? Imagine that every part of your journey, even the painful ones, was designed with wisdom. If we live in a reality shaped by karmic events, then the randomness we perceive is simply an illusion. What appears to be a disorder to us is actually the result of a higher order that we can't always see. You're not being punished or mistreated. You're being shaped, molded, and polished. Silence, repetition, and hardship are not signs of failure. They are the tools by which you grow. Success isn't about awards or accolades. It's about the inner work, the resilience, and the lessons learned through struggle. The people who frustrate you are the ones who teach you most, and the challenges that seem like loops of annoyance are messages guiding you to grow. If you don't change your approach, the world around you won't change either. This isn't just philosophy. It's a law, a fundamental rule of consciousness. It's karmic law, the cause and effect that echoes through not only this life, but beyond it. You might feel worn out by the monotony of life, thinking that you're exhausted from all the demands placed on you. But the truth is, your tiredness isn't from doing too much. It comes from doing too little for too long. For too long, you've sought refuge in noise, in distractions to escape the constant internal dialogue, the same anxieties, the same feelings of emptiness, the same sense of longing deep in your chest, whispering that something essential is missing. This isn't failure, it's feedback. If the simulation holds up a mirror and says, "We're still here when you're ready," then you are in the midst of the process. You're experiencing the system's call for your awareness. You weren't meant to numb yourself through life. You were meant to awaken to the pattern, the code. Every frustration was meant to be a doorway, every heartache a guidebook. But many people take life's challenges personally. They blame their surroundings, others, or even themselves, forgetting the most important truth. Your life is a feedback system created by your soul. It's constantly sending you signals, trying to communicate something to you. Every interaction you have isn't random. It's a calibration. Even your difficult upbringing wasn't a mistake. It was part of the blueprint, essential for your growth. Every decision you make isn't a simple matter of preference. It's a test, a measure of how aligned you are with your true self. Here's a secret that no one will tell you. The system isn't rushing. Time doesn't matter. There are no deadlines, only patterns. Those patterns will continue to show up, repeating themselves until you make a different choice. Not a perfect choice, just a conscious one. You think you want peace, but peace isn't possible until there is alignment. And alignment comes through honesty. The kind of honesty that admits you've been sleepwalking through life, reacting instead of responding, misunderstanding the precision of life and calling it unfair. You didn't stumble into this life by accident. You didn't just wander into this simulation. This is your login. You clicked accept on the soul contract, and now you are experiencing the exact sequence of events your soul knew you needed in order to grow. Stop rushing. Stop numbing yourself. Stop pretending this life is something you can just forget. Every thought you have sends ripples into the universe. Every decision you make is a signal, not to some outside divine force, but to your own future self. The version of you that's trying to pull you out of the cycle you're stuck in. That future version can't pull you forward. It can only point the way. You can sense the signals in your gut, in your dreams, and in the tension in your chest whenever you stray from your authenticity. There's no such thing as a wasted moment. You're not retaking the exam because you failed. You're retaking it because you're now ready to pass. And speaking of which version of you is reading this? It's the one who's ready to disrupt the pattern. It's the one who's beginning to see, starting to understand. The one who opens their eyes is the one who truly sees.